Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the JRE review. We are reviewing the Alex Jones Returns podcast, 1255. This has to be my very favorite guest of Joe Rogan's. Trust me, not that I agree with 90% of the facts that he throws out, whether you can even call them facts. But Alex Jones is a very excitable, hilarious, I feel like he's a good dude, but he is a lunatic, and he really makes for a good podcast because there's just so much nonsense and so much lunacy. Human-animal hybrids. I mean, this conversation can't be missed. If you're a fan of Joe Rogan, this is the one to listen to. But yeah, let's get fucking straight into it. So let's start the review. Welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience Review, where each week I review every single episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. What more do you want? So first off, fuck yeah. It was exactly as crazy, maybe more crazy than I thought it was going to be. Number one, it was a long podcast, and it's really worth listening to the whole thing all the way to the end. A bit of background for anybody that maybe downloading this and didn't listen to the 9/11 conspiracy podcast back in the day, which I still think is Joe Rogan's most downloaded podcast of all time, at least I think most watched on YouTube. That was when Alex Jones was on it last time. I don't think that was the first time he was on, but that was the last time he was on for sure. Eddie came on that time too, and things just got out of hand. Alex Jones is the InfoWar guy. Knows Trump, very political, but also super conspiracy theory-ish. He goes way out there. And this podcast, again, is kind of part of that. So the whole issue with this is there was kind of like a falling out between Joe and Alex. Not that it came from Joe's side. And if you keep up with all of Joe's podcasts, this is kind of redundant to even say it. But the point of the review is that, I go over some stuff, right? So yeah, he said some things that were just beyond crazy about drinking blood from the pituitary gland or eating glands of babies. Some guy was doing this, and Alex was reporting on it. And Joe was like, "Listen, this is nonsense." Alex has kind of lost the plot, but and that's fair enough, right? It sounds like someone has lost the plot when you start talking about that. But this guy's conspiracies and what he thinks is happening in the world is going far beyond anything that any kind of normal person thinks. So where Alex is at, I don't know. But the way he speaks and how excited he gets and how he just rants and raves and just goes off, I mean, it's truly impressive and probably is the reflection of some sort of mental illness that he has, for sure. A big thing with Alex at the moment is that he is being majorly censored. Right? So in a sense, you could say there's a bit of a conspiracy theory out to get him. Now, all this stems from the Sandy Hook thing. There was a school shooting massacre that I guess Alex is saying that he didn't deny, but there's some evidence that he said it didn't happen. And then people online were saying that he was sending people to the houses of the parents to deny it. So he was kind of a denier of this whole thing and blah, blah, blah. So with that and other things, I guess Twitter kicked him off, YouTube did, iTunes. So he lost tons of support, and he had millions and millions of people that listened to him and his crazy ranting on his radio show. It's just entertainment, I mean, and it's not just entertainment too. I'm sure people are believing and following this stuff as well. But a lot of people just find it very entertaining. It's just a wild, wacky character that he is. But anyway, so they took all that social media away. Didn't have any of it, and he really just felt alone and started attacking everyone, kind of attacked Joe, thought that there was a conspiracy to not have him back on. But that's why, just for freedom of speech, it's a great thing that he got to get back on. They had a great time. Everything was hilarious. And yeah, like I said, this is 100% something that you should listen to. a few things. It's hard with Alex to know exactly what could be true and what is just like paranoid delusions. One thing he was saying is that he had some of his bank accounts taken away because he's been marked as a hate speech guy, even though he had really good credit. And he's saying, I don't have hate speech. I'm not saying any hateful things. But somehow in the global banking community, that has like affected his credit, and they've taken some of his bank accounts away. He doesn't get into more about what that means, but if there's even any truth to that, I think that's a scary thing. Like, that's really terrible. Then he starts ranting and raving about human-animal hybrids, and this is the stuff that gets to me when he's just like, there's all these cloning stuff, and I think what it is there's some element of truth to the things that he's seen, right? So maybe there is some sort of CRISPR experimentation going on where they've used a tiny amount of some sort of like animal DNA, splice it in with some human DNA to change some genes or so. This is all speculation, right? But what Alex will do, and what you can assume he does based on all the outlandish statements that he makes, is that he goes to 10 with it, right? He says, oh, they're splicing things. They're trying to make a half man, half pig. He just goes to the most crazy version of what could be happening, and then jumps right to the next subject. And that's why everything sounds so outlandish, because he's just taking it as far as it goes. I don't think there's any half animal, half human things going on. Somebody would know, right? Somebody would have seen something. I don't believe that people are this good at keeping secrets to be able to keep all the thousands of things that Alex Jones is saying that's happening secret. One part of this discussion that I really was enjoying is when he was saying that these generals, these military generals, were all taking DMT, and they use that to get into like the DMT realm, and that's where they can do deals with the aliens, and it's all happening on these military bases. What? I don't know. That seems like the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. But it's just hilarious that he says it with such, I mean, he's so adamant about the truth of it. What the hell do you guys think about that when it comes to, like, how does somebody read that and think, oh, that's probably happening? They get into ayahuasca talk and how there might be like telepathy parts of it. There's like baby abortion shit where they're selling organs. I mean, it absolutely goes off the rails. And so many times Joe has to calm it down. He's like, okay, calm down. Let's kind of make sense of it. Things really pick up when Eddie Bravo gets on the scene. He comes in about, I don't know, like an hour or so into it. But then they start screaming at each other because Eddie's fucking with Alex. And he's just saying that these conspiracies aren't happening and none of this is real. And Alex just loses his mind. He just starts screaming and shouting. That bit is absolutely beyond nuts. And then they even go as far as to just talk about God, what God is, how God is a thing that doesn't know how it created itself or how it was created. So it's just running all these programs to figure out what it is, how it even exists. And that's what the universe is. And at that point, I think they're pretty drunk. By now, I don't think Alex was getting high on this one. I think he took a bench to that and just kind of relaxed. Last time in the 9/11 podcast, that shit was getting out of control, but he was very drunk and very high. So, the stuff he was saying was kind of like beyond sane at that point. One of the more interesting parts for me is when Alex is constantly talking about how he is going to pay for an expedition for Eddie to go prove flat Earth, right? So Alex doesn't believe that the Earth is flat. Eddie does. That's just an ongoing bit of nonsense that Eddie loves to carry around with him. And Alex wants to put together a documentary and get it set up and really look into it. And obviously a bit tongue-in-cheek, but with Alex, you can never tell. He seemed like he'd be pretty serious. So, to wrap this one up, being that this is a must listen, right? And being that I think this one to be one of Joe's most popular podcasts again, what does this say? You know, is it like it's telling Joe, oh, you've got to have more and more crazy people on because this is who people want to listen to? Or does this take some legitimacy away from Joe and his show because he has somebody like Alex on? You know, those are questions worth having, because, you know, if he's going to have Jack Dorsey back on, yet at the same time he's talking to somebody like Alex, how is this seen in like the professional world? I mean, are these other like tech execs and high profile people going to say, well, hold on a second, he's just having these lunatics and or racist? Not that I think Alex is, but people accuse him of a lot of things, right? People really do not like Alex. What does this mean, you know, for Joe's show? I don't know. And then the next question is, what do you think of Alex? Is he mad, or is there truth in it? You know, obviously his ideas are hard to believe, but, you know, he has found some truths in things. So after listening to this podcast, this conversation with Joe, does this change your mind? You know, does this make you see Alex in a different light? And most importantly, should he be being silenced? Is it fair? What does it mean? How many other people are going to start to get silenced? You know, this is important dialogue, because people have a right to speak. You know, I have a right to make this nonsense podcast, so I do it. I enjoy it. And he has a right to waffle on about whatever. If you don't like it, don't listen. You know, I mean, I've never tuned into InfoWars to listen to him, but I'll always listen when he's on Rogan. It's just too goddamn funny. But anyway, enjoy it. You know, sit down, like Joe says, smoke some weed, have a drink, have a laugh. It's so fucking hilarious. It's probably best to watch this one on YouTube as well, just because of like seeing Alex jumping up and down and getting all excited. It makes for such a good show. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. I really enjoyed it, and peace.